United States submarine base at Key West, Florida. A dispatch that quoted President Truman's press secretary, Charles Ross, as saying that President Truman has no knowledge of any secret project by this government that would give substance to the existence of such objects. Ross also said that both the Air Force and the Navy deny that such objects exist.
Hi.
Hi.
Hey, what's up? My name is Noelle, and I am of the opinion that Britney Spears' 2007 album Blackout is the best album she actually ever released.
Damn. And I'm Chelsea. I had nothing going on in my brain except for thinking how cute my dog looks right now.
Well, that counts.
Yeah.
Do you remember the Blackout? Do you remember the Blackout album?
Oh, no, let me see what's on it.
Give Me More, Break the Ice.
I think I might think her first one is her best one that had like Hit Me, Baby One More Time, Blackout album.
Blackout was so fucking iconic. She had the
Give Me
dark
More.
hair. Yeah. Give Me More, Piece of Me, Radar, Break the Ice. Those were my favorite.
I don't think I know those songs, honestly. So I'm probably going to have to say that her first album was probably the one where I'm going to know the most stuff on it.
Well, you need to turn around and give Blackout a try. I remember when Blackout came out, I had a shirt. You remember like the 2000s font that took up the whole shirt?
Yeah.
I had that and said, Give Me More for Britney Spears, because that album, obviously it came out at a very crucial time for me. 2007, I was like in the middle of high school. She was making club beats that we hadn't even dreamed of yet. Like, she was so ahead of her time. I yearned for the clubs that I had never been in.
2007, I was still deep in my scene phase, so I would have been listening to post-pop.
But that was the best
punk
part about it, was like I was so seen, but like she had the dark hair for this album. This album was so like, it was so pop adjacent. Like the club beats were so heavy. It was also kind of giving like a little, it was very scene adjacent, this album.
I also will say though, like I am notoriously not a good music listener. I don't listen to new things. I pretty much still listen to all the same stuff that I grew up with.
Are you clipping your fucking nails?
Dude, I broke my freaking nail and it's gonna drive me crazy this whole time.
My God, I hear it, bitch.
Well, I'm so sorry. I don't know what to do.
Are you done?
Almost.
Well,
I don't think you can hear this. It's so quiet.
Are you fucking kidding me? I heard it. I heard the clipping.
Yeah, I had to get it good.
Well, anyway, it's not any music now, so I guess you can listen to it. So
yeah, finally it's been out of the rotation long enough.
You can listen to it now.
You know, the newest band that I have taken in has been Necrogoblicon,
which I started
listening.
New.
Exactly.
Right.
Maybe Orville Peck. Also,
Orville Peck is like the newest, but not new. 2019.
Maybe Chapel Roan.
Chapel Roan would be your newest artist, then yeah.
Yeah, that would be my newest.
But even
artist.
She's like at like 3 years now.
Yeah, and I only recently started to listen to her.
Yeah.
But like new stuff that comes out, I don't know, like I try, like the new Billie Eilish. Oliver was playing all of her new albums when that came out. Harry Styles, I was like, listen to zero. And it's not that I don't like the music, it's just I very rarely get into a band or an artist. Like it just doesn't scratch that itch for me. But I also don't listen to like music when I drive. I don't listen to music when I work. I just don't.
I mean, I don't listen to music when I work. That's fucking insane. But when I drive, for sure. But I go through like phases. Sometimes I'm listening to audiobooks, podcasts, music. I just like flip through.
If I don't have a podcast that I'm interested in or an audiobook, I'll just drive in silence.
That's fucking serial killer shit.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very rare. If I have an itch that I need to scratch with like one song, I'll like listen to that one song and then that's it.
Wow. What a bleak little existence.
It's just, it's just not for me.
And you know what?
I don't think, to clarify, I don't think it makes me special at all. I think it's just
You're not doing it in a pretentious way.
I'm
You're almost
definitely
doing it in a
not.
lazy way.
Yeah, it's and because the music that I do like isn't like the stuff that I just named, I would say is all pretty mainstream.
Hmm.
I like old music that everyone also likes too, like Creedence Clearwater Revival. I like Boston. I like Journey. Like none of it is
Yeah, the
like,
bands that came out when you were a kid,
well, the bands that my parents listened to 100%. So,
the bands that you went and saw live.
yeah, right when they came out, because right when they dawned in like the 50s and 60s,
Yeah,
that was my prime, fresh out
yeah,
of college.
yeah.
But yeah,
And we
it's
know.
yeah, if I had a pretentious music ear where I was like, well, I listen to this artist and they put sticks together and then they whisper into the wind, maybe I would be like, yeah, I don't listen to music. I listen to art. But no, that's what I listen to.
And that's fair.
Yeah.
And that's fair.
But
Um,
all of my friends have such incredible music tastes, or like you have incredible like movie tastes. I think I sent you that meme a while ago where it was like the two friends, and one is like, you need to watch this movie. It has like the most robust artistry that goes on behind the scenes, ba 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 ba. And then it was like that friend will always be friends with, have you seen the new Fast and Furious movie? And I was like,
yeah,
me and Noel like
yeah.
together. Yeah.
And it's the perfect balance, I'd say, yin and yang.
Yep.
So,
Yep. So.
speaking of balance, we're going to talk about something that has none.
Yeah, good segue.
Um, okay. I mean, this is a fun topic because sometimes people get really triggered around it. Um, and I will stop at parts and kind of suss out how we're feeling, but this is a topic that I learned so much about and is yet another example of how US interventionism has done nothing but cause atrocities and generational damage. So let's talk about it.
Hmm.
The story of the Iraq War doesn't start in September 2001 or March 2003. It starts more than a decade earlier, and actually even further than that. I wrote that line before I put this additional information, so it's further than a decade because we're talking about 1953, not 1990.
Hey, public school, leave us alone.
In 1953, the United States and the United Kingdom helped overthrow Iran's democratically elected prime minister, Mohammad Mossadegh. Mossadegh? I wrote it out phonetically and I still don't remember it. In 1953 Iranian coup d'etat. Mossadegh had nationalized Iran's oil industry, which obviously threatened Britain and Western oil interest. Nationalized meaning like, hey, you got it's the same thing. I was telling Chelsea this, it's the same thing about like what happened in South America with like the bananas when
Yeah.
they were like they democratically elected an official and he was like, we're gonna take like our land back or at least come to the table
And
and
they're
try
like,
to
oh no.
yeah, and then they go bullet to the back of the head. So
I was also going to try to help you out and be like, just call him by his first name, Muhammad. And then read one sentence and then new Muhammad appears. So that's not helpful.
yeah, it's the
So
Mohammed is the most common name in the world, so we have to say his last name too.
thank you, Super Bad, for teaching me that.
Yep. Um, the CIA helped organize protests, propaganda, and political pressure to remove him and strengthen the rule of Mohammed Reza Shah Pahlavi.
Pahlavi? Yeah,
I think
Pahlavi looks
so.
right.
Pahlavi. Again, American public school, you guys. It's a fucking struggle out here. Decades later, during the Iran-Iraq War, the United States supported Saddam Hussein because Iraq was seen as a useful counterweight against revolutionary Iran. And revolutionary Iran, you've probably seen like pictures from it where you have like the girls in their
Yeah,
little
women
50,
wearing bell bottoms.
yeah, women wearing bell bottoms and their little like mod fashion and haircuts. And the US didn't want that because what
Yeah,
also came
can't
with
have
that
that.
was Iran realizing that they needed to take back control of their land and oil. So the US backed Saddam and his government in Iraq politically and militarily. So let's remember, let's put a pin in that and militarily. Hmm. I think that means we
Hmm.
may have given them weapons and training. Probably not relevant. So, and they did this to contain Iran's revolutionary influence in the region. After the Iran-Iraq War, Iraq was deeply in debt, owing tens of billions of dollars, especially to Kuwait and Saudi Arabia. Saddam believed Kuwait should forgive the debt because Iraq had fought Iran partially on behalf of the Arab Gulf states, so them included. Kuwait refused. But of course, the main reason was oil disputes. Iraq accused Kuwait of producing too much oil, which lowered global oil prices and hurt Iraq's economy and the U.S. economy, and was drilling in Iraqi oil fields near the border. Saddam also claimed that Kuwait historically belonged to Iraq, arguing that it had been separated during the British colonial period. And by invading Kuwait, he hoped to erase Iraq's debts, seize Kuwait's oil reserves, and greatly increase Iraq's regional power. So, in 1990, Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait, triggering the Gulf War, and the U.S. turned on their former bestie, Saddam, because he was now going after the oil they wanted. A US-led coalition quickly defeated the Iraqi forces and pushed them out of Kuwait. And we for sure helped them out because of the kindness in our hearts and not because Kuwait had and still has massive petroleum reserves. But the Gulf War did not remove Saddam Hussein from power as the US had hoped. Now that they had realized they had the same interest in oil grabs, the US helped place Iraq under harsh economic sanctions and strict weapons inspections overseen by the United Nations. The sanctions targeted oil exports and restricted imports, which devastated the Iraqi economy and led to widespread shortages of food, medicine, and basic services. Teams like the United Nations Special Commission spent years dismantling Iraqi chemical weapon programs and searching for prohibited weapons. So, before we recorded this and we were kind of like going over the notes, I was talking to Chelsea about this because my Amera brain reads that and is like, oh my God, like it was actually doing good because we dismantled their weapons programs and like chemical weapons programs. But then I'm like, bitch, we have those.
Yeah.
We do those.
How often are we saying we got to fight fire with fire?
Like, we
like,
literally do
shit.
that. Like,
Yeah.
fucking the United States is drone striking wedding parties and they're over there trying to make medieval mustard gas and we're like
Yeah.
we've got to stop them. Meanwhile,
Yeah.
we've got fucking like chemical weapons that'll make you like shit your pants and your brain explode. But like,
Hmm.
no one else, only us. And I just think that's like a funny thing to think about. And before I get into like the next parts of this, history is doomed to repeat itself if we don't pay attention. Remember that at this point, so like in the late 1990s, inspectors had destroyed large portions of Iraq's chemical and biological weapon stockpiles. So, like, they were wiped. And many intelligence experts believe Iraq's weapon capabilities had been significantly weakened as well. So, I highlight this because fast forward to current day in Iran, was it a few months ago? The Trump administration said that they like did a bombing campaign over like Iran weapon manufacturing
Yeah.
and said like they took most everything out and like we did it, high five, right?
Hmm.
And now they're saying, just kidding, they're gonna make a nuke tomorrow. So
Yeah.
it's very interesting how
So it's like
like
either you lied or you failed.
exactly. So while sanctions and inspections limited Iraq's military options, they also caused long-term suffering among Iraqi civilians. By the end of the decade, US policymakers were already advocating the removal of Saddam Hussein from power. Many of these policymakers were connected to the Project for the New American Century, PNAC. It might have a way you pronounce it, but whatever. Which was a think tank that argued the United States should maintain global military dominance and reshape geopolitics in the Middle East. I wonder why.
That hasn't gone anywhere.
In 1998, PNAC sent a letter to President Bill Clinton urging the removal of Saddam Hussein. And when they mean removal, they don't say like rehome him. They mean put a bullet in the back of his fucking head. Reframing it as necessary to secure U.S. strategic interests. I wonder what those are. I wonder if it rhymes with boil. Several future members of the Bush administration were directly involved in PNAC, including Donald Rumsfeld and Paul Wolfowitz. who would later shape the Iraq War strategy, which one of those names at least should ring a bell for our elders. One PNAC strategic document suggested that transforming U.S. military power might take decades and, quote, absent some catastrophic and catalyzing events similar to like a new Pearl Harbor. So saying
that's prophetic in a really disastrous way, isn't it?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, because guess what happened, you guys?
The new Pearl Harbor?
In 2001, the September 11 attacks fundamentally reshaped U.S. foreign policy. Well,
as a young
look at that?
30-something when the September 11th attacks happened, as a young 76. It was a really hard time to live through.
Yeah, as we learned in a few episodes ago, I would say it was one of the things that Chelsea was reshaped by the drowning of the Glee actress. I was very affected by 9/11.
Stupid. Just the comparisons between those two. I was like, yeah, when Naya Rivera died, and you're like, well, mine was 9/11. It was insane. Like, I see memes now, and it's like, why am I so anxious? And then it's like, did you watch like thousands of Americans die on national television? And I was like, oh yeah.
Yeah. And I will say that we'll obviously talk about propaganda in a second, literally in a minute less than. But I was definitely the perfect propaganda, just like the perfect conspiracy theory, has a piece of truth in it. And the piece of truth in all propaganda that came out after 9/11 was fear. And it was rightfully so, and it was rightfully placed. And because of that, they turned us into a little mini North Korea. They had us pledging allegiance once again. They had us fucking saluting the flag. They had us willfully and happily shipping off like our young civilians to go get blown up in a war. Like, it reconfigured our brains. And obviously there's
100%. And then the nationalism that exploded after that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a bizarre time to think back on because, we talked about it when we got to see not Nickelback, Creed play because Three Doors Down.
I didn't get to go to Nickelback.
No, but you got to go to Creed, and that's all that matters. Three Doors Down opened for Creed, which R.I.P. the lead singer passed recently, heartbroken. I remember going to movies during after the 2001 September 11th attacks, and they would be playing military recruitment ads on before as a preview, rather than movie previews, they were doing military recruitment ads, and it was to When I'm Gone by Three Doors Down.
Yep.
And we were so if you think back to music videos that were coming out, everything was military propaganda. It was just montages of us,
Angry American by
Angry
Toby
Americans. Keith. Yeah, horrible. We'll stick a boot in your ass. It's the American way. And everyone was fucking foaming at the mouth.
Fashion became wearing the American flag.
Yeah.
I think back at that time and look at photos and I had American flag bikini, I had American flag phone case, American flag band-aids, American flag hair clips, and it was peak fashion. And the only thing I can compare it to is when the mustaches came a short time later.
It's so weird to think about. We can all agree, at least I should say most of us, that war is not good. And soldiers
but we wanted it.
Dying is not good, but we were foaming at the fucking mouth, which makes this part that I learned recently, or at least clarified recently, very fucking interesting and sad, because September 11th happened, right? Mm-hmm. Terrorists affiliated with Al-Qaeda carried out coordinated attacks against the United States, killing nearly 3,000 people. And the attacks created a climate of fear and urgency, allowing the Bush administration to frame national security in existential terms. The administration quickly launched the broader war on terror, initially targeting Afghanistan, where Al-Qaeda was based. Okay? You remember this.
Mm-hmm.
But discussions almost immediately turned towards Iraq, despite no operational link between Saddam Hussein and the 9/11 attacks. Iraq became a central focus of the administration's security agenda. So we used 9/11 and like, we're going after Al Qaeda, you guys. We're avenging 9/11. And everyone was like, yeah, fucking pass all of these fucking laws. Like, we're skipping over Congress. We're just going straight the fuck in. Fuck yeah. Had so much American approval. Let's fucking go. And then, like, in the darkness of night, they were like, actually, we're going to. Actually, you guys, we're going to go to Iraq, even though there's absolutely no connection to Iraq and Al Qaeda.
Yeah, and one thing I remember distinctly at this time too, and we were talking about it a little bit before the episode on how like salacious and indoctrinating propaganda could be, is that the geography of like Afghanistan, Iraq, Iran was all kept very mushed together to the point where like there was never any distinction between the three really in terms of the war on terror. It was all just like one single conglomerate.
Yeah.
When you had people like who was a Rosie O'Donnell speak up about it and be like, wait, we're talking Iraq or Iran? When she started to question that stuff, she got canceled, dude, and people were happy to see it.
Yeah, I mean, remember the Dixie Chicks? Or not Dixie Chicks, they're called the Chicks now.
Yeah.
The Chicks like being booed off stage for saying like, I don't think this is a legit war. I don't think we're actually doing the right thing. We're going into countries that have nothing to do with anything.
Yeah. The guy who did Bowling for Columbine, what's his name? The documentary maker?
Oh my God, what is his name? What's his name?
What is his name?
Look it up.
Bowling... But he said, shame on you, George W. Bush. And then I don't want to say it canceled him, but it,
well, he was like Michael Moore. He was like gone after that.
Yeah. I didn't see him like in the public eye like that.
Well, he did Fahrenheit 9/11 in 2004, which was like the spilling the tea.
Yeah.
Showing the documents. And yeah, they basically like
we're like, nope, you're done.
Yeah. So fucking crazy. Yeah, the indoctrination is just, and it was such a sleight of hand. It was such a sleight of hand because they were like, they got a mass majority of public approval to go to war because everyone thought we were going to avenge 9/11 and go after Al Qaeda in Afghanistan. But then they turned a 180 and just
put it all into one thing. Yeah.
Yep. And specifically just didn't. Then they even started to just call it the war in the Middle East. So then you wouldn't be able to like understand or recognize that they were targeting just they were shooting anyone, you know? So in the months leading up to the invasion, the Bush administration started dropping breadcrumbs. October 7th, 2002, Bush gave a major televised speech in Cincinnati arguing that Iraq had chemical and biological weapons and was pursuing nuclear weapons. Hey, remember when we said we fucking blew them all up? Anyway, this speech was part of the push to convince Congress and the public to support the war. January 28th, 2003, at the State of the Union address. In this speech, Bush said Iraq had biological and chemical weapons and cited intelligence claiming Iraq sought uranium from Africa, the controversial 16 words. We'll talk about it in a sec. This was one of the most widely broadcasted claims before the invasion. March 17th through the 19th, 2003, Bush issued an ultimatum demanding that Saddam Hussein leave Iraq. 2 days later, the U.S. launched the invasion, partly justified, I would say exclusively justified, by Bush's claim that Iraq possessed the iconic
weapons of mass destruction.
Jeez. Vice President Dick Cheney declared that there was no doubt Saddam Hussein possessed weapons of mass destruction. Secretary of the State Colin Powell presented intelligence to the United Nations in February 2003, displaying satellite images and diagrams supposedly showing mobile biological weapon laboratories. Much of this evidence came from a single informant, Curveball, that's what they called him, whose claims were later, you guessed it, completely discredited.
Oh, that would be a curveball, Noelle.
It would. They were telling us from the jump. They were calling
Uh-huh.
the informant curveball, just knowing that it was all made up and we would figure it out eventually. So, and then again, the uranium. So they were saying like Iraq was purchasing yellowcake uranium from Niger, which again, this also completely collapsed after investigators found the documents were completely forged. So every single piece of quote unquote evidence that they presented, not only to the United States citizens, but to the UN, made up.
Yep.
Made up lies, fairy tales, and fallacies. Meanwhile, millions of people worldwide protested. On February 15th, 2003, coordinated demonstrations across dozens of countries drew massive crowds, and it was the largest anti-war protest in history. In London, roughly 1 million people marched. In Rome, 3 million protesters gathered, one of the largest demonstrations in the country's history. And cities included New York, Madrid, and Berlin saw hundreds of thousands participate. Despite these protests, Congress passed the. Also, let me just pause here. Let's actually digest this for a second. Because, as you know, someone who grew up in a military household, both of us,
Mm-hmm.
I remember the narrative about like the protests, that the anti-war protests, the anti-war in the Middle East protests were very much siphoned to me as not just like anti-American, but like siding with terrorists, which is very
Yes.
interesting because it's the same exact narrative that is being pushed today when you
Yep.
have the anti-ICE protest or the anti like the Free Palestine protest and the
Yep.
genocide in Gaza, right? Like the narrative is like, oh, you are a fucking paid agitator, you're a fucking terrorist sympathizer, you know what I mean? If you say like um the Mossad and Israel government is committing a genocide. They're like, you're a fucking like you're an
Yep.
not just what is it called? Anti-Semite, right? Because
Yeah.
there's anti-Zionist, which we all are, and anti-Semite, which is like against Jewish people. We love Jewish people. We hate the country of Israel as the genocidal government that it is, right? They were doing the same fucking shit then.
Yeah.
There was like
Copy paste, change the font.
literally these people were like, hey, you guys, this has nothing to do with Al Qaeda and 9/11. This has everything to do with wanting fucking oil and bombing the shit out of civilians. We fucking put this guy in power. We helped
Yeah.
put Saddam in power. We were dogs with Saddam. We fucking trained his people. We helped him politically. We helped him financially. We helped him militarily. We helped him with weapons. Like we were, making
Mm-hmm.
out, dude. And then he's like, oh, actually, I want this fucking oil too, bitch. And then we were like, well, he's got to go.
Yep.
He's got to go. And then they hid their agenda for wanting fucking oil under terrorism that he was not connected to. He was not connected to Al Qaeda. Al Qaeda was not in fucking Iraq. The oil was. And their ex
Mm-hmm.
bestie. And their fucking ex bestie Saddam. And there was a group of people who fucking knew that. They knew that from the jump. And they were like, you guys, they're feeding you lies and propaganda. This is not fucking real. And they were out there in the streets bravely. Again, I would say the minority out there
Yeah.
being told by people who lost family members in the 9/11 attacks or lost a fucking, family member overseas. They're being told like how fucking dare you? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
how
Oh,
fucking dare you? And
you
meanwhile they're
couldn't
like,
say anything.
yeah, because it's like it was beyond like not being patriotic. It was beyond that. It was like you are personally spitting on like the death of my father or whatever. Like it
Yep.
was very, very fucking, and that's how you know that propaganda was so good
Yep.
and just absolutely juicy because it was not seen as a criticism of the government doing something fucking shady, doing some shit that was frankly illegal, right? And corrupt. It was you are actively spitting on the death of all of these civilians in America. Like how fucking dare you? It was such a slap in the face. It was and meanwhile I'm in, California being like, I thought I knew right from wrong. I was like, fuck Prop 8, I was like, how dare
Yeah.
they try to repeal same-sex marriage? I thought that I was like in the know. But this propaganda had me so hook, line, and sinker that I was like, this is actually insane that people are like protesting, like fighting for vengeance of 9/11. Like,
Yeah.
and it wasn't that. It wasn't that. And I don't know, those people, they never got their apology ever for being ostracized, for being right.
Dude, we're not going to get an apology.
No,
No.
never. I mean, they'll get it from me right now,
Yeah.
They'll get it from me right now. And it's, I don't know. It's so hard to realize that like you were, but think about it, like how easy it was to realize that you were actually on the wrong side of history, but believed in every fucking fiber in your being that you were on the right.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
how I feel now looking back on the war in the Middle East and how duped I was by propaganda is how I think people will feel. Give it same amount of time about like what's
Dude, I
happening.
hope so.
I
I hope
hope
that there's a reflection. And I also think at least I don't know if we're just in our own little echo chambers in terms of pushback, but for me, I'm like, well, at least people are protesting it, but I don't know if we're just in the same small group as
yeah.
these people were then.
Yeah. I mean, I think in some cases, I think like um, a free Palestine has caught on to the masses
Hmm.
because, we're in the age of information. You can't hide a genocide anymore.
Yeah.
But with things like ICE, I don't think that I think we're still a bit in the echo chamber of the very vocal minority there. I think that there are a lot of people who still really believe that like the reason why they can't afford groceries or a house or
Yeah.
losing their job or are
Well,
not paid a living
then
wage is immigrants.
I'm going to take a picture of myself with a newspaper so that they know the date on it, standing next to my Chinga La Migra house flag.
Yeah, that's what you have to do.
Yeah.
Just so everyone knows, hey, I was
Yep.
actually on the right side of history this time.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
anyway, despite these protests, Congress passed the authorization for use of military force against Iraq, giving the president authority to invade. The later leaked Downing Street memo in 2005 suggested that the intelligence was, quote, being fixed around the policy, indicating that the decision to invade had effectively been made up and the intelligence was shaped to justify it. Major media outlets also amplified the government's claims. Reporting by Judith Miller at the New York Times cited anonymous officials and defectors claiming Saddam had active weapons programs. Years later, many sources were proven unreliable, and the Times issued an editor's note acknowledging flaws in its coverage. On March 19, 2003, the United States launched a massive invasion of Iraq. Cruise missiles struck Baghdad in a campaign called Shock and Awe, intended to overwhelm Iraq's military and government with rapid, immense force. Hundreds of precision-guided bombs and missiles struck key targets, including power plants, communications networks, and government buildings. Television networks broadcast the destruction live, showing massive fireballs lighting up the night sky. The war was justified on the grounds that Iraq possessed chemical and biological and potentially nuclear weapons. Wow, that seems familiar. And might supply them to terrorist groups. President George W. Bush warned that failing to act could lead in a mushroom cloud. But, as we know, the weapons did not exist. After toppling Saddam Hussein's government, the U.S. faced the enormous task of rebuilding Iraq. Paul Bremer, head of U.S.-led occupation authority, issued two controversial orders. The de-Baathification, removing members of Saddam's ruling party from government positions. This is where we get like the public hangings and shit like that.
Hmm.
And dissolving the Iraqi military. Hundreds of thousands of soldiers suddenly lost jobs, income, and status. These decisions left many armed, frustrated, and unemployed, fueling the insurgency and creating the conditions for extreme groups to gain power. Meanwhile, billions of taxpayer dollars flowed to private contractors. Halliburton / their subsidiary KBR received 10.7 billion with a B for military logistics and rebuilding Iraq's oil infrastructure. Blackwater received 1.2 billion for armed security of diplomats and officials.
And at times, contractors actually outnumbered US troops, marking a new era of privatized warfare where corporations profited enormously from conflict. In 2004, photographs from Abu Ghraib, a prison, revealed that detainees were being humiliated and tortured. Prisoners were stripped naked, stacked in human pyramids, attacked by dogs, and forced into painful stress positions. Several soldiers were prosecuted, but critics argued that the abuses were linked to broader interrogation policies approved by senior officials.
And this is where you get that, you'll probably remember at the moment I explain it, that picture of the guy with
Dude with the
the
covering over his
yeah,
head standing on the
yeah,
little footstool.
standing on like the boxes with the covering over his head and his arms
Yeah.
out, and you can see like the wires from his arms. Those are the pictures that they're referencing. And
Mhm.
they stacked a bunch of the prisoners naked in a pyramid and posed next to it and took pictures of it. They were posing next to pictures of dead bodies. Those were all of that's what they're referencing here. Those are
Mhm.
those pictures.
Yeah, and across CIA run black sites, detainees were subjected to enhanced interrogation techniques, which included, but were not limited to, waterboarding, sleep deprivation up to 180 hours, confinement boxes, forced nudity, prolonged stress positions, and psychological intimidation. And in 2014, the Senate Intelligence Committee torture report revealed that the CIA misled policymakers and the public, and that the torture was far more brutal than previously disclosed, and critically, that these programs were completely ineffective. They produced almost no actionable intelligence that could not have been obtained through standard interrogation. And many detainees gave false or misleading information just to stop the pain. And any intelligence gained rarely prevented attacks or even dismantled terrorist networks. Some detainees, like Gul Rahman, died in custody, showing that the human cost of methods that ultimately failed to deliver the results. And the program, also called reputational damage, fueled anti American sentiment and undermined broader US strategic goals.
If I'm remembering correctly, I think he actually died from freezing to death, like hypothermia. I think they were like spraying him down with fire hoses and then leaving him naked on a cement floor. I think he died of hypothermia, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't remember who said it. I want to attribute it to Captain America, but I don't know if that's correct. But it was like you can determine the like status of a man or a country or a government based on how they treat the lowest of the low, like their political prisoners, their regular prisoners, like in our prisons and stuff. And I think that reflects back on. I think that's pretty accurate.
Yeah, no, 1,000%. And the human cost of the Iraq War is difficult to fully grasp, but the numbers alone are staggering. Studies published in the medical journal The Lancet estimated that the war led to over 600,000 plus deaths in Iraq. Meanwhile, the project known as Iraq Body Count, which relies on documented reports from media and NGOs, has confirmed over 200,000 civilian deaths. And those are just the deaths we can count. Entire cities were devastated during the war. One of the most infamous examples was the Second Battle of Fallujah in 2004, one of the bloodiest urban battles of the conflict. U.S. forces fought house to house against insurgents in a city packed with civilians. The assault involved heavy bombardment, airstrikes, and intense street fighting. Large portions of the city were destroyed, thousands of residents fled their homes, and many civilians were caught in the crossfire. But the damage didn't end with the bombs when the bombs stopped falling. Long-term environmental consequences began to emerge. Researchers and doctors in Iraq reported rising rates of cancer and birth defects, particularly in cities that saw intense fighting. One suspected factor was the exposure to depleted uranium munitions used in U.S. weapon systems. While the full scientific picture is still debated, the reports from Iraqi hospitals paint a grim picture of communities dealing with the lingering aftermath of war years later. And throughout the war, certain stories helped shape how the conflict was perceived back home in the United States. They helped keep Americans believing that all of the young lives lost weren't in vain, even as more evidence of corruption and deception surrounding the reasons for the invasion began to unravel. In 2003, the story of Jessica Lynch, a young American soldier captured in Iraq, dominated headlines. The military initially described a dramatic firefight and a daring rescue operation under enemy fire. The narrative was widely repeated across major news outlets. But later investigations revealed that much of the story had been greatly exaggerated. Lynch herself later testified that the events had been misrepresented. And this episode became a case study in how wartime narratives can be shaped and sometimes distorted for public consumption. Other incidents exposed deeper structural problems in the war. In 2007, private security contractors working for the company Blackwater opened fire in Baghdad's Nausr Square massacre, killing 17 Iraqi civilians. The incident sparked international outrage and highlighted one of the more controversial aspects of the Iraq War, the growing role of privatized military forces. Unlike regular soldiers, many of these contractors operated in legal gray areas, raising serious questions about accountability and oversight during conflict.
And meanwhile, American troops were also paying a heavy price. More than 4,400 U.S. service members were killed in the war, and over 30,000 were wounded in combat. Sister was one of those, got a Purple Heart. But those numbers only tell part of the story. Many veterans returned home with post-traumatic stress disorder, traumatic brain injuries, and long-term health issues. Thousands were exposed to toxic smoke from massive burn pits. My sister was one of them, where military bases disposed of everything from plastics to medical waste by setting it on fire. And years later, many veterans began developing rare cancers and chronic respiratory illnesses linked to those exposures. Jessica became allergic to the sun, also lived to the ripe old age of 33 before she literally just dropped dead out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
And the psychological toll had been devastating. Thousands of post 9/11 veterans have died by suicide, which is a grim statistic that continues to haunt the legacy of the war. Yet, even as these veterans returned home, carrying the consequence of the conflict, the systems meant to care for them have often struggled to keep up. The United States Department of Veterans Affairs have faced long chronic underfunding, staffing shortages, and overwhelming demand, leaving many veterans stuck on long wait lists for medical care, medical health treatment, and disability benefits. And funding battles in Congress have been repeatedly threatened, and limited resources for veteran services, even as the number of veterans needing long-term care continue to grow. Jessica got housing approval in Utah, but only got medical approval in Denver. So she could live here, but if she wanted any kind of medical treatment, would have to go to Denver. Like, that's how incompetent it fucking was.
Yeah.
And 100%, those who served, the war did not end when they left Iraq. They came home to a system that was overwhelmed, understaffed, and often unable to provide support that they were promised. When Jess got shot, the only reason she got out of God, she was in Baghdad, I think. The only reason she got out of Baghdad is because my mom went fucking insane and got someone in Congress to listen to her, because Jess was left there for over a month, and she managed her bullet wound in her leg by taking Tylenol and chain smoking cigarettes while packing dip in her mouth. That was the only way she could pain manage, because she was still expected to work full force.
Unreal.
And then there's the financial cost. The direct military spending alone ran into the hundreds of billions of dollars. But when researchers began calculating the full price, including reconstruction efforts, long-term medical care for veterans, and decades of interest on borrowed money, that total estimate has climbed to over $2 trillion. Trillion with a T. T as in the military tribunals that are occurring. And much of the money meant to build Iraq never rebuilt anything, because investigations later revealed that the tens of billions with a B of dollars in reconstruction funds were lost to corruption, mismanagement, or projects that were simply abandoned. Power plants were never completed, water systems stopped functioning, and infrastructure projects were left unfinished. And for many Iraqis, the promised rebuilding of their country never truly arrived. Even as the United States formally ended combat operations in 2011, the consequences of the war did not disappear. The instability left behind created fertile ground for extremist groups, and among them was ISIS, which would later seize large parts of Iraq and Syria, plunging the region into another devastating conflict. Millions of Iraqis remain displaced. The violence has still continued, and the country is still struggling to rebuild a stable political system. And this all began with a central claim, a central lie, which was that Iraq possessed weapons of mass destruction. But here you go. They were never found because they never fucking existed. And so when people say support our troops, what they really mean is support the American agenda to make fucking money off of killing our troops. Like rats get fat while good men die is an old phrase that came out of like World War One, I think, and it's still fucking true to this day, dude. Like
Absolutely.
when I say Jessica was chum, cannon fodder, like 100%, because chewed her up and spit her out, and then they let her drop dead, and we had to beg them for a military funeral.
And it's
But they give you a
so
free flag. I got one free
wow.
flag when Jessica died.
Wow, you guys are so lucky.
Yeah, thanks.
The
Love it.
United States government has really blessed
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, they gave it to me in a plastic bag that collects dust in my room.
I also think one of the upsetting aspects of our military is that it takes things that are quote unquote the American dream and it dangles it in front of them, right? So it
Yeah,
makes these things unobtainable or hard to get so that they can dangle it in front of you so that you will put your life on the line for a political agenda, right? Like that's really what
yeah,
military service is. Like they'll promise you
yeah,
education, they'll promise you help with housing, they'll promise you free medical care, they'll promise
yep,
you all of these things, right? All of and of course you're like I live in America. I'm struggling. I don't get the white picket fence dream anymore. I can't buy a house. I can't even buy a car. Like
yeah.
I can't afford my medical bills. I
And
don't have insurance. And then so you sign up for the military to go die because some fat fucking Washington wants money on oil.
yeah, and they took Jessica was in Iraq on her 18th birthday. They are taking children out of high school. She graduated high school early so she could go.
I mean, think about the idea really of military recruitments at high schools. It's
It's
despicable. It's
they
their
need they need
they
bodies.
need bodies. They need bodies. They're gonna blow your fucking kids up for the promise of a Corvette. I promise
Yeah.
you that's exactly
Like
what's happening.
so now if I think like support our troops, I'm like, who'd you vote for then? Who'd you
Yeah.
vote for?
Also support our troops, then what are you doing for our veterans currently today who
Nothing.
are
And there's
homeless, who
oh,
are
nothing.
struggling with addiction, right? Because
Mhm.
they never received the proper medical care for the fucking, for the bomb that blew up half their fucking body.
Dude,
Like,
the medical care Jessica got for getting shot in the fucking leg was they gave her a cane.
yeah. And it's
That's your
like
medical care.
you people say support our troops. Where are you? Then why are you voting for people who are actively defunding programs
Yeah,
to
that's
help
my
our
thing.
veterans?
I always want to know who'd you vote for because then I want to know like because I keep a list of what gets voted for and against in terms of veteran stuff so I can post it. And I'm like, if you say support the troops and this is who you voted for,
Yeah.
these are all the people who just voted to like not give them any care whatsoever. And she didn't get a stitch of mental care. She used to beat the shit out of me because she would just go into like she had post-traumatic stress disorder so bad she would come and pull me out of my bed and just fucking attack me and then go run out into the street and my parents would be like all right, I gotta go find her, and then they would find her, she would calm down, they would get up and go to work, I'd get up and go to school,
Hmm.
like, and then that was it. There was no help for us either. Like
Yeah.
one of my teachers was scolding me because I dropped to a 3.3 grade point average in her class. And I was like, I don't know. My sister keeps waking up at 2 a.m. and then she beats me up for an hour. And
My
then
God.
she runs away. And my parents can't stop her because then she turns on them. And then I watch my sister attack my parents. And then my dad has to go out and find her. And sometimes he finds her hiding under cars 2 blocks away. And then they have to calm her down. And I'm awake because it's so loud. And then they finally go to bed. But then they wake up right away to go to work. And then that wakes me up. So anyway, that's why. And then she's like, I don't want to hear excuses. And I was like, okay, I'll say nothing then.
Ugh.
Yeah, insane, dude. And it's like I don't blame my sister at all. I don't blame my parents at all. Like there were no tools
Yeah, and also
whatsoever.
you can't blame her because we were eating that same propaganda.
And I didn't understand it then, but I 100% understand it now. Like they didn't give a shit.
No.
She did what she needed to do. She went over there, killed a bunch of people, and sent home with all of that on her head.
Hmm.
Like she,
Until it killed her at a very young
yeah,
age, at an
yeah,
unfortunately disturbing young age, at the
dude,
age that we have lived through.
yeah, she killed people, and I doubt she didn't kill a single terrorist
Hmm.
because of what they put. They would send them out on convoys and just be like, "Don't stop driving," and then there'd be like kids in the road, and they'd be like, "Nope, you got to keep driving," or like
Hmm.
the things that they would put into their head, and then all you hear about are like suicide bombers or like bombs on the road and stuff. So we hear it and we're like, well, that's what you got to do, or they'll get you first.
Hmm. Yeah.
No, we didn't give a fuck. That shit was sport, dude.
Yeah.
Like, by like sickos putting a 17-year-old girl through it. Like, it's insane.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's why they want them young, so they
Yeah.
can mold their brains.
Yep. Yep. To normalize it. And then humans aren't built for that shit. And then they come home and they get sick physically and mentally. And then they're like,
Hmm.
nope, bye.
Yeah.
Drives me nuts, man.
Yeah. It's disgusting. It's
Yeah.
disgusting and it's despicable.
So,
And we're
man, I
getting
really
ready
feel
to
for every vet.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I I can't blame them. I get it. Like if, the
Yeah.
the promise, the promise and the propaganda that they feed you, for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And
And it's like, I'm reasonable enough to know that we need to have a military, but I'm also realizing that any war that we're sending people into to die for some sort of like weird American promise is just lies and fallacy.
yeah, absolutely. So the Iraq War destabilized an entire region, killed hundreds of thousands of people, displaced millions, and cost trillions of taxpayer dollars. More than 4,400 American service members were killed, and tens of thousands more returned home wounded. Many carry lifelong physical and psychological scars. The war was accompanied by torture programs that were later widely condemned as both brutal and completely ineffective, intelligence that turned out to be flawed or politically manipulated, and a massive system of private military contractors who profited enormously from the conflict. Now, more than 2 decades later, historians, journalists, veterans, and policymakers are still asking the same questions. Was the Iraq War one of the greatest intelligence failures in modern history, or was it one of the greatest political deceptions ever carried out in the name of national security?
Yes, both.
Both. Absolutely both. And
If I've ever called Bush America's grandpa, I apologize because fuck Bush, dude. Can't wait for him to die too.
he's a war criminal, just
Yeah,
like Obama, unfortunately.
yeah,
So, yeah, it's, I hate seeing the same shit repeated. And the unfortunate part is that like a lot of young Americans are becoming privy to this and they are not
hmm,
signing up for the military in the numbers that they were. They're not believing the propaganda, so they're not like joining for patriotism. And now we're getting threats of the draft, and it's just
yeah. The draft.
absolutely fucking despicable. It's disgusting. I think if you voted for Trump, especially now, it's one of the most unpatriotic things you could do. When I see you wearing that fucking Make America Great red hat, I think of you as an absolute betrayer of the American people and every fucking civilian here, and an anti-human humanitarian, because you're sitting here fucking sucking off these fat fucks, these fat fucking rapist, pedophile, billionaire fucks who want to blow your fucking kids up so they can have another fucking yacht. That's what I think of
Yeah,
when I see you wearing that fucking hat. I think of all of these young people who have so much potential and have so much art and intelligence and empathy and love to give and a future to fucking save and carry on their fucking backs, and you want to send them out to die in some frivolous fake fucking war. That's what I think
yeah.
about when I see that. When I see you in your fucking Make America Great hat. That's what I think.
Hmm. Same.
So, on that note, on that note, um, um, you know what? We'll throw another veteran support link in the link tree. Um, we'll absolutely do that. We'll donate this month's money to some veteran programs again. So to help donate to that, you can support us on Patreon. It's $1. Or you can follow the link that we'll post and donate yourself. If you do donate yourself, message us. We'll send you some like free merch PDFs and shit like that. And we do talk on this week's Patreon. We do talk about some things that we didn't talk about here that are related because it's a little too close to home in current modern day. So we did that on purpose to, not get flagged or whatever. So we'll do that. And then Linktree in our bio also has a link to merch where 100% of proceeds are donated. So again, if you want to support who we're donating to, you can get stuff there. It's all of our art mostly is made by Kelly Halloran or at Wildwood Owl on Etsy. She makes cool shit for us. She makes cool shit in general. Check her out. We also have a link to listen to us on YouTube. Make sure to bully us in the comments. And I don't know why you'd need it. Oh, we also have like the mutual aid link up there. And I don't know why you'd need it, but we also have a link to listen to us, which is anywhere podcasts are heard.
Hell yeah.
So, with all that, I'm going to go ahead and give a hail and so sorry to everyone in the early 2000s that was out protesting the Iraq War and the war in the Middle East before my my prefrontal cortex was fully developed. So shout out to you.
Yeah, I'm gonna hail that apology. It was my bad.
My bad.
My bad. My B. My B guy.
You guys. So okay.
Right.
Let's get the fuck out of here. Okay. Bye.
Bye.